So hello, everyone. I'm Rachel Tanucci from the Bloomfield Public Library, and we have a very informative program prepared for you today, so we're glad you're here. We will, as we usually do, be starting with some introductory information. I'll let everybody who has some announcements give their announcements. We'll introduce who's going to be speaking today and what some of the topics are. And we will be recording to ensure that as many people can see it as possible. So we'll ask you to mute yourselves and put any questions that come up during the presentation portion in the chat. And we will make sure to get to them for a Q&A after the presentation portion is over. So if anything comes to you as it's going on, please do feel free to put those questions in the chat and we will make sure to get to everything. You may have seen our new library construction going up, just a few library quick announcements on that. We are working on both Prosser and McMahon-Wittenberry libraries. So hopefully you've had a chance to see us at the atrium, but if you haven't, it's lovely. It's air conditioned. And we do also have our little space at 330 Park at the Leisure Services and Human Services building. So please do visit us if you haven't had a chance. We've got lots going on and we would love to see you. So I will turn it over to Paula Jones first, who from the CEEC, and she's going to introduce herself and say a few words.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much, Rachel. Again, my name is Paula Jones. I chair the Conservation, Energy, and Environment Committee. And our appreciation to Rachel and Bloomfield Public Library for hosting the program today. The public library is always a great partner, and we enjoy doing programs with you. Also, the CEEC extends its appreciation to Viviane Rinaldi from the West Hartford-Bloomfield Public Health District. Very excited to be partnering with them as well on this presentation. We have three presenters today to talk about summer bugs. We will start off with mosquitoes because people being unhappy with the mosquito problem last fall kind of precipitated the idea that we needed to do some type of program, and we rolled some other bugs into it. So Nancy Bowden, who is a member of CEEC, will talk about mosquitoes. Viviane from the Health District will follow up and talk about ticks. And Jessica White, also a member of the CEEC, will finish up with yellow jackets. I am going to leave it to each of them to say a few words about themselves and kind of why they are interested or how they came to be talking about the bugs that they're talking about today. And I think Rachel's done a great job of talking about how to efficiently go through this. We should have about 15 minutes at the end of the presentations for Q&A. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Nancy.
Was Viviane going to make any announcements or no?
Actually, yes. So Viviane, before we start, do you want to say something about public health?
I can say a few words. First, I want to say thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Rachel, for this teamwork. Working together make us stronger, and also sharing education and information make us aware and ways to prevent some of the things we're going to be talking about today. So the health department have some service they provide. I just want to bring some highlight for the event we're going to have on July 30th. The Cancer Fair Prevention. It's free. It's for everyone, not just for residents. If you need to do a mammography, we're going to have the mammography van there, so you can schedule a mammogram. We still have 8 spots available. If you don't have insurance, we're not going to be asking about any immigrant status or nothing like that. So please reach out to me. I'm going to share my contacts in the chat, and I'll be happy to schedule that event for you. But it's an event for everyone. I also will share the flyer. So thank you.
Nancy, take it away.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Nancy Bowden, and I'm a 20-year resident of Bloomfield and a member of our Conservation, Energy, and Environment Committee. And we're very happy to present this information about several summertime insects. And hopefully we have helpful suggestions to help you prevent their presence and make your outdoor time more pleasant. I'll be talking about the whiniest of all, the mosquito. And I guess the reason would be that I really don't like them. They kept me inside so much last summer, so I was happy to learn more about them. I think we all probably know the annoying itch that results from being bitten, or really more accurately, pierced by a mosquito. But the more serious concern is that they can carry and infect us with several dangerous diseases. So even though most stings will not result in our becoming ill, it is still important to reduce our exposure, and especially that of our young people. So yes, I guess I should have said slide 2 with the mosquito picture if you have that up, but then slide 3 we'll move to.
Okay, hold on one moment.
Sorry.
Can you all see that?
So, yep. And I think slide 2 is the picture of the mosquito, which we don't want to miss. And then slide 3. Yep, there it is, mosquito. And then slide 3. Yep. Okay, so let's start by learning a little bit more about mosquitoes. I was personally surprised to find out that there are well over 3,000 types of identified mosquitoes around the world. But luckily for us in the United States, there are only 3 basic types as shown in this slide. However, unluckily, each type can be a transmitter or a vector of a different serious disease. We aren't going to worry too much about the differences between the types, since for the most part, we aren't going to stop and look through a magnifying glass to see which kind we are encountering. Lost my slide bar here. Sorry. But so we can pretty much generalize because there aren't that many differences between them. The Aedes are the newest addition to the crew, most likely imported through plant material, just like other invasives that come into our region. It's also called the tiger mosquito due to its striped body. This is the mosquito that can transmit the Zika virus, which is one of the newer concerns that we have, as well as dengue fever. Aedes are also more likely to sting during the day, unlike the other 2 types. It's not quite as common, but it's still here in our environment. Anopheles mosquitoes are more typical in behavior, attacking between dusk and dawn, so during the darker hours. This is the mosquito that can introduce malaria. You notice a mosquito that seems to be lying flat on your skin while it draws your blood and not in the usual V shape up on its long legs. It might be this mosquito. And then finally, the 3rd type is Culex. They're the most common in the US. And though they do sting humans, they actually prefer the blood of birds, so that makes control of the Culex a little bit more difficult. However, we hear the most about them every year because they're the vector for West Nile virus and Eastern equine encephalitis. So whenever those mosquitoes are detected by health departments or scientists, you'll hear warnings about their presence. And you may remember that on occasion, youth sports schedules have been adjusted so that the kids are not playing after dusk just to avoid their exposure. All of these mosquitoes share 2 basic traits. They require a blood meal for their reproduction, and they require standing and even stagnant water for laying their eggs. So if we want to reduce their presence and keep ourselves safer, we need to avoid being that blood meal, and then we need to remove standing water where possible. Note that it is the female who needs your blood to feed the eggs. So if you successfully swat one as it prepares to sting, you can say, as my dad would, got her. Next slide, please, Rachel. All right, mitigation. Probably most of us have techniques for avoiding being pierced, which would include wearing long pants and shirts when in mosquito hangouts, using a repellent, including some of the non-toxic ones on the market, that include things like citronella, lemon, eucalyptus and tea tree oils, and also restricting outdoor activity both early and late in the day when mosquitoes tend to be more active. If you want to sit outside late at night, or if you're camping, the presence of wind or even setting up a fan outside and then having smoke from a campfire or even from incense can also discourage flying pests. Last year, there was a brief discussion in town about whether our Public Works Department could undertake a spraying or a fogging program. And while that might seem efficient, in reality, it's a very difficult and costly task for a municipality to take on successfully. For one thing, it requires regular reapplication of the spray, especially when there is a frequent rainfall. Another problem is that many people have objections, for good reasons, to the use of pesticides in and near their yards. Even the most mild insecticide can affect more than one type of insect, including the ones we consider to be beneficial. A third reason is that effective spraying requires walking around the edges of each yard and property to spray in shaded or damp areas where most mosquitoes breed and rest. That can be costly, labor intensive, and actually has not been shown to be very effective because it just doesn't reach enough of the adult population. And even if it did, it's actually worth considering that mosquitoes are part of the food chain for other species, including bats, dragonflies, and hummingbirds. So we want to reduce them and maybe not altogether eliminate them. Better approach is to tackle the larva stage in order to reduce the population growth where we live and play. So for this, we need a quick tutorial on the life cycle of mosquitoes, which again differ only slightly among the three types we're concerned with, so we will generalize on that. Next slide, please, Rachel. Right, as mentioned earlier, all of our mosquitoes need to find standing and preferably stagnant body of water near or on which to deposit their eggs. This would be after we have fed them with some tasty blood. So this can range from a pond with lots of vegetation for a safe harbor, to a swamp that rarely drains, to a random bucket in our yard, or even an old tire with rainwater in it. The female mosquito is a totally negligent parent and has no further role in the development of the young after she's laid the egg. Those eggs will take a few days to hatch, although some eggs can remain viable for several months just waiting for enough water to hatch in. The stage after hatching is called the larval stage, and what you'll see are little tiny wiggling worms under the water. They stay in the water the whole time. And then about 5 days later, they develop into the pupa stage. They still live in the water, but at this point, they are just like a butterfly going into a sort of a cocoon stage, and from that, they will develop into the adult mosquito and fly away to start the cycle again. So we probably cannot prevent all reproduction, and as we said, we probably don't want to do that. If you have a pond or swampy area on your property, you could take the step of treating the water, but that's beyond the scope of what we can talk about today. We'll just focus on a couple of steps that everyone can take around their yard to reduce new populations from emerging. The first and easiest step is to dump all standing water that may accumulate in your yard after a rainfall. Even a planter that has water in the bottom can be a breeding site. Note that due to the time required to go from egg to larva, if you dump unneeded water every few days, you will prevent breeding. That means you may want to even empty and refill your watering cans and bird baths if they've been sitting with water for a while. If you have a rain barrel collecting water, simply put a screen over the opening, and that will prevent the mosquito from going in and creating a lovely nursery inside. But be aware that a mosquito can lay eggs in a very small amount of water. Even a teaspoon is enough. So vigilance is the good first step. All right, moving on. Keeping all that in mind, we'll move on to the next slide. The second and more devious method is to create a bucket of doom. Paradoxically, despite the name, the idea has been promoted by a very nice man and champion of native landscaping, Doug Tallamy. Although the name Bucket of Doom has been claimed by a woman named Joanna Bruschetto from Nashville. The basic concept behind a bucket of doom is to create an alluring spot for the female mosquito to lay her eggs. And then, after she's flown away to continue living her best life, to use a small dose of organic pesticide to kill the larva. As you can see in the slide, the supplies needed are simple and easily obtained. You might already have them if your garden shed looks anything like mine. A 5-gallon bucket, some organic material, straw or hay is listed, but you can also collect tall weeds. Water, including anything collected from a recent rain. And mosquito dunks, which are a product that you can buy from a nearby garden or hardware store. Active ingredient in dunks is called Bacillus thuringiensis, or BT, which many of you may recognize as a pesticide often used by organic growers. So its impact is very minimal on the environment. Okay, next slide, Rachel. To assemble, put the hay, straw, or other organic material in the bucket and add water, the recommended ratio being 4 times as much water as organics, aiming to fill the bucket about halfway. Then you let nature take its course for a few days while the water becomes a little stinky and therefore attractive to the female mosquito. You can watch for the eggs to be laid, which will look like little grains of rice, either on the water or maybe stuck to the side of the bucket. But even if you can't see those, soon after they've been laid, you'll start to see the little larvae wiggling around in the water. They're fairly easy to see, but they're very small. So once you see either the eggs or the wigglers, you can add the dunks. You can even use a quarter. They look like little round donuts. You can see that picture. You can add a little as 1/4 of a dunk if you're using the 5-gallon bucket. As long as you do it before they pupate, you want to catch them while they're still wiggling around. The dunk will last for 30 days, so you only need to add a new one once a month if you're keeping your bucket of doom going all summer. Remember always to look at the directions on the package. I'll give you a little bit more information about the proper use of the dunks. And it doesn't hurt to add chicken wire over the top of your bucket just to keep curious rodents out of there so that you don't have to dispose of an unfortunate body while you're trying to take care of the larva. Place your bucket in a shady or damp area where mosquitoes are likely to be found. So that's it. You're ready for a DIY project that will give you a sense of control over your outside enjoyment. And I just want to leave you with this little haiku by Kobayashi Isa, translated from Japanese, so the syllable count comes out differently in English. Mosquito at my ear. Does he think I'm deaf? Okay, that's my presentation.
Thank you, Nancy. Who's up next?
I believe it's me, the chick. Yeah, we're gonna be talking about ticks. So again, thank you so much for being here. And we're gonna be talking about ticks and how we prevent tick-borne disease. All those animals, bugs, ticks relate to spiders, so they're not considered bugs, but they are in this environmental and make totally sense. We're talking about them in this presentation, but be aware they are out there, right? They're gonna be there, how we protect ourselves, how we make a way to be able to navigate and also at the same time continue doing our daily activities, but being safe too. You can go to the next one, Rachel. Thank you. My name is Viviane Rinaldi. I'm a community health educator. The West Hartford-Bloomfield Health District was founded in 1995. We work together in both towns, and all our efforts, it's combined and divided by both towns. So you can go to the next one. So what is a tick? As I mentioned, they are related to spiders. So they have 8 legs, but they don't eat insects. And all the ticks are really small, but the black ticks black-leg ticks, they are really tiny. So they are really easy to, you miss them, or maybe you feel like it's a little dirt or freckles of the dirt. So easy to just miss that, be aware of that. And where do tick lives? They live in a places where it has a lot of grass, leaves, wooden areas, or also in animals, right? They need blood to be around and survive. Ticks wait for an animal, like a deer, a mouse, or a dog, or a person to walk by so they can grab. So think about that. The tick have 8 legs, right? The legs behind stay in the grass, and the legs in the top, it's looking for something so they can grab, so that animal can grab and quickly find a spot. So that is the way they get into us. When we pass with our shoes, or with barefoot or with sandals, they are able to attach, and quickly they're gonna find a spot to get be able to hide and then bite us. So after this moment when he grabs, or the animal grabs an animal or a person, they're gonna go quickly to areas in our body that have moist and also is dark. And that way also we are not being like, if it wasn't a part that we look all the time, we easily could take off, right? So, but they go in areas that we're not gonna be looking for, or we're not gonna be touching, like for example, our ears, inside of our ears, under our arm, in behind of our knees. And also, as Nancy mentioned, in the tick case, is also the female is the one who will be spreading the disease. Not all the ticks spread disease, but the one who spread the female. And for you really have a time for the tick be able to transmit the disease, needs to be between 36 and 48 hours. So it's not right away that you're gonna get infected, but it's important to, as soon you realize you had a tick bite, you keep eyes open, and you also gonna learn more other ways to get in touch and be aware of some signs. So they really, tick bites don't usually hurt, so you're not gonna even feel or notice. And that's the reason also really important to look for the kids, do a checkup on the young kids and even babies if they are playing outside in the grass, because they not be able to communicate or really express. And they tick gonna stay attached to your body until they get full. If they have that time, for example, think about a kid who's not expressing themselves, not able to talk like a baby, they're gonna stay for a long time till they get full. When they get full, that means they get totally like that little ball, they're gonna fall. And that's the only time they're gonna fall. Otherwise, you're gonna need to take it off. So Rachel, you can go ahead with the other one. Other slide, please. So it's important to understand the CGCs bring awareness. This was from last year, but it's still for this year. We are having mild winter, so that gives longer time for those kind of bugs and ticks be around for a long period of the time. Right now, we need to be more resilient and more do more strategy in terms of how we're gonna prevent ourselves, how we're gonna be organizing our lawn, our area to protect ourselves against those bugs and the animals. But be aware that Connecticut is doing a lot of work in terms of prevention, tick-borne disease and mosquito-borne disease and other kinds, in terms of testing and understanding what is going on in our state. You can go ahead with the next one. So here that I want to bring attention to. Anytime we're gonna go out, or we're gonna go with a family, kids, or any other person, we need to be aware where the chicks is gonna more look like to go, right? Here's it's a person, you can understand pretty clear what is going to be the favorite spots for a tick. He can be in any area, but those are pretty much the areas they usually go for, because those are places that it's dark, it's also moist. So behind the between the legs, back of the knee, around the waist, inside the belly button, under the arms, in around the hair, in and around the ears. So those are really areas that we should be, as soon as we finishing walking around, we should do a checkup. Start from the back, your head, and go down. And you do the same thing with a kid. If you have somebody else with you, like you in your family, could do that checkup for you in case you're not able to do it, I highly recommend to. So in case of a pet, also sometimes we are not going outside, but the pets, they need to have the walk, they need to running around in the grass area and in wood areas that usually we not go. They also gonna get ticks, and they also can get some tick-borne disease like Lyme. We can get contaminated with Lyme and other disease, and also the dogs. Some animals like deers, they don't get Lyme disease, for example. They carry the tick is get the contamination, but they don't that animal doesn't suffer anything from that, different than us and our pets. So first, be aware, talk with the veterinary about this if you have a concern, if you don't have any treatment for your pet. But also, when you finish the walk, do a checkup in your dog before you bring it in, because the tick can go to your house in that process. So around the ears, around the eyelids, under the collar, under the front legs, between the toes, around the tail. So those are places that ticks is pretty much looking for on the dogs, and it's really good to do a checkup on them too. You can go ahead with the next one, Rachel. So here I'm gonna explain how you remove the tick, but also be aware of prevention in terms of clothing. What you can do then, right? Like, I'm gonna go outside, I wanna do some activity. What I can do, use light colors, long sleeve. When you go for areas that you know that potential have ticks, protect yourself using shoes. Don't use sandals. Socks, you can put your pants inside of the socks, so if you able to look your clothes and they are light color, you're gonna be able to see ticks easily, and you will be able to take that off. So be aware also, they have some treatment clothes if you're a person who like hike a lot. So you can send out your clothes for treatment, or you can buy some clothes already with treatment done. You can do by yourself. I will recommend you look to environmental protection agents. They have all those steps. You should be aware and always read the instruction, because those chemicals, it's not good for you if you're breathing that. So be aware of those things, but you can protect yourself using clothes. So, okay, so Viviane, I walk around and now I found a tick on my kid. What should I do? First, don't panic. You're gonna maybe have a tick there. That's normal, that's nature. But what you should be doing, if you have tweezers, if you don't have it, it's a good time to buy. But if you do have it, get the habit to go out with that tweezer in your purse or in your pocket. You're able to take that a tick using that tweezer, but you need to really go close to your skin, because you want to take the whole tick out, and the tick uses the head to embed to your skin. So when you get close to your skin, that means you're getting close to the head. But Rachel, can you just go to the next slide I want to explain one thing. So, but here's the key point. You need to negotiate with the tick. And that sounds funny, but look at the circle. That's the head. So with that shape, think about it. That goes to your skin. If you pull with all like panic or force, the head's gonna be there. And not necessarily is a problem the head being there. If you stay there, wash with water, soap, it's gonna come out in a few days. But the most successful way is you put the tweezer close and keep it doing slow movements. The tick is gonna get release that movement. They're not gonna fight. They're gonna come out naturally, and that's the way you get the whole tick out. You can go back, Rachel. So I just want to make sure that's imaging. You're gonna think about it. So when you find the tick and you're gonna try to do that, you don't need to use any nail polish or any jelly, or a lot of people use what is the Vaseline, other kind of things that it's really, you can use the tweezers and you try to go use them with some pressure. Don't twist the stomach, like try to go as close as possible, because if you try to squeeze the upper part and the tick already gets some blood, that blood's gonna go back to you. So you have more potential to getting again the contamination. So really take the time to try to take it off. Breathe and kind of take it slowly to the process. If that happens, remove all the parts possible. If the head stay there, that's not a really big deal. Just keep washing, clean really good the wear area, wash with the soap and water, and just wait a few days. That's gonna release. And if you feel that you need to talk with a provider, that's okay. But I want to bring awareness for one specific thing. Can you go ahead, Rachel? You can go one more. Here, I'm sure people are more familiar with Lyme, but some other people are not familiar with Lyme. So those marks here, those are classic rash that Lyme disease is going to show up in the body. It is important to understand that not everybody's going to have that rash, right? So anytime you have a tick bite, keep watching your body for the next couple of days. That rash could show up or that rash could not show up. If it show up, you call your provider right away. You talk with them. If you start having symptoms like you don't know, you're not feeling good, you just don't know if something is wrong with you, like just a yucky feeling, something's not right. Also talk to your provider and bring awareness that you were in an area that tick was probably around, or you find yourself a tick. So that way you will be able to already be screening for Lyme disease. As soon as possible, if in case you get contaminated with Lyme, as soon as possible you get access to the treatment, that's the best. And your provider is going to be able to give you more instructions, what are you to do in case you get contaminated with any kind of tick-borne disease. You can go ahead. So here we're going to be talking about what the health district could do for the people who live in Bloomfield or West Hartford, or they work in West Hartford and Bloomfield. Anytime you find a tick, as soon as you finish the taking that tick out of yourself or somebody else, you can put in a Ziploc bag and bring it to the health department. We're gonna be testing that tick for free to understand if that tick was contaminated or not. Again, not all the ticks are contaminated. You're gonna receive a report from the CEEC, the Connecticut Central Station. I forgot the specific name, but it is an environmental station that just provide tests for ticks. They also collect mosquitoes to understand what kind of diseases around the state. They are just focused on those kind of things, and they are be the ones gonna testing all the ticks we send out. Doesn't have any cost for you, and you're just gonna be providing pretty simple information like what is the best contact for we returning to you, and if this tick was removed from a pet. In case it was removed from a pet, we'll not be able to test, but if it was removed from a person, yes. The lab is gonna send the result straight to you, not to us, straight to you, but in case turns to be a positive case, like a Lyme disease or babesiosis or anaplasmosis, we're gonna follow up with you to make sure you get the resources you need to get the treatment you need, and our public nurse, we're gonna be talking with you. So it's also a really great way to get information, but also anytime if you have any questions about that, you can reach out to us. You can go ahead with the next one, Rachel. Here, just showing what you can use. Plain crush proof packed or seal bag. You don't need to bring it with anything inside. It's just the plain tick. If it is dead, that's okay too. You don't need to put in a tape. You don't need to use a glass container. You don't need to put any object or also any kind of solution. You don't need to do just the plain bag. So you can go ahead for the next one. And that's it. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Be aware, be safe, protect yourself, go outside, and we're here to support you.
Thank you, Viviane. I think we have Jessica up next.
Right. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Jessica White. I'm a member of the Bloomfield CEEC committee, and I'm here to talk to you today about yellow jackets. So just to give some context of how this portion sort of came to be, the CEEC committee was approached and asked if we could just look into mitigation remedies or solutions for yellow jackets, much like the mosquitoes. People were finding that they were being pestered by them last year, particularly at some of our town events, like the concerts on the green and so on and so forth. So after we did that, we thought that this would be great information to also share at this presentation and help more people have awareness and knowledge of how they can help to mitigate yellow jackets. So yeah, next slide, please. Okay, so in Connecticut, there are 4 types of yellow jackets that are commonly found. There's not a whole lot of differences between them. Really just the biggest difference I would say is where they build their nests, and I'll go a little bit more into that in other slides, but these are the 4 main types. Within each colony of yellow jackets, they are social creatures. You'll find 3 different types. They all have 1 queen. They all have worker bees, which are all females. And then they also have drones, which are the male insects there. But the vast majority of the yellow jackets are female workers. Knowing the specific type or at least something about their behavior can help you make decisions about how to best mitigate them or respond if you're finding them in their yard, in your yard. So I'll talk more about their behaviors. Next slide, please. But first, I wanted to take a note just to say, make sure that you know exactly what insect you're dealing with when you are dealing with them, because their behaviors and temperaments can be a little bit different from each other. A lot of times people just see something that's yellow and black striped and they think it's a bee and are scared of all of them. And that's not necessarily, you don't have to be afraid of all of them. They're not all aggressive. They're not all mean. There's a few examples that are on here. I'll particularly call out the honeybee. I'm a beekeeper, so I love them. And, honeybees are an example of a bee that is not aggressive. If you come across a honeybee in your yard, you don't have to fear. They just want to get their nectar and pollen and go back to their hive. Yellow jackets are a little bit different in contrast. They are a little bit more aggressive. They're, honeybees, they say, are defensive, whereas wasps and others might be more aggressive. So pay attention to some of the characteristics, look at the different body types. I have an app that I use called CEEC, S-E-E-K. That is a good one. It can be difficult to get insects sometimes because they move fast and you have to hold the camera on them. But maybe you found a dead one or something like that, and you can use that to help identify. So that would be the first step. Figure out what exactly insect it is that you're dealing with. Next slide, please. So if you have determined that it's a yellow jacket, here is a little bit of information about their behavior that can help you figure out how to deal with them. So the first thing to know is that yellow jackets are beneficial pollinators. So they are good insects. They do have value to them and they contribute to our ecosystems. They also consume some other pests such as flies or caterpillars, other things that might be potentially even mosquitoes they might eat, things like that could be a nuisance to us. So they're not all bad to have around. However, you might have experienced that they do have very painful stings that can come from them. A single sting can have a lot of swelling or pain, itchiness, tenderness for a while. Some people are even severely allergic to them and might experience some kind of anaphylactic shock, which is a medical emergency. So that can be a really serious situation for people. And it's good to have awareness of the potential dangers there. A little bit about the life cycle of the yellow jackets. So the queens are the only insects of the yellow jackets that overwinter. they emerge in the spring and start to build out a new nest. Initially, the queens are taking care of the eggs and the larvae until they have grown worker bees that can take over that. And then once they're at that point, the queen's only job is to continue laying eggs. The workers will then take over caring for the larvae and also going out and foraging for food and resources for the colony. So chances are, if it's past like early spring, I would say definitely by this time, if you're seeing a yellow jacket, it's probably a worker and not a queen. If it's, you know, May or even early June, it might be a queen that you're seeing there that's out looking for the resources. Yeah, next slide, please. Okay, so as I mentioned, yellow jackets live in colonies. Since they start with just one queen in the spring, it takes them some time to build up, but by the end of the fall, the end of the summer, there can be thousands of the insects that are in just one colony. So they can get really robust really quickly. Some of the nests are underground. So you see some of the pictures that are there. That's what the grounding nest can look like. I am sorry I didn't point it out. Actually, Rachel, do you mind going back one slide? There's an example of an aerial nest on that one. So that's what the aerial nest might look like. You can see them hanging from trees or other structures. It might be on the side of your house, something like that. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. Yeah, so that's one important thing to pay attention to in terms of mitigation, knowing where they're building their nest, because you might want to respond differently depending on where they are. The food sources that yellow jackets are attracted to are either sweets or protein. The protein food sources are taken back to the colony to be able to feed their larvae, and the sweet sources are the adult yellow jackets food. So I don't have examples of it here, but if you're interested, there are some DIY type of traps that you can use. And interestingly, deli meat is something that is often used to bait those traps because the yellow jackets will be attracted to the protein that's in there. So that is something that you can look into if this is a problem that you're trying to deal with. But those are the two main things that they would be attracted to. This is important to keep in mind because if you're having a picnic or something where food is present, that's definitely the stuff that you want to keep covered or potentially even keep it inside so that it's not left out and attracting yellow jackets or other insects that might be looking for some food there. Next slide, please. Okay, so some ideas of things that you can do to mitigate yellow jackets. First, just prevent access to food, water, and shelter for them as much as possible. So that could be like if you see a cavity in your house somewhere or in your sheds, a hole somewhere that they might want to build a nest, or if they've built a nest there before, cover things like that, seal those gaps, get rid of any voids in walls or doors that might be places they can build a nest in. Make sure that your garbage recycles containers are clean. Keep them inside or in a covered place if possible. Make sure that they have tight fitting lids on them and there's nothing that is in there that is just, I don't know, getting gross. Those types of things can attract them as well. You can get traps for certain types of them. It's best to hang those in the early spring. Then you'll get a lot of the queens that might be looking to establish a nest before they can even get to that point. So it's sort of nipping a source of where the colonies are coming from. And there's a lot of options that are available at garden shops or hardware stores, things like that. Another suggestion is to be careful about where you're planting things in your yard. So because they're pollinators, they will be attracted to things that are flowering. So putting flowering trees or other things away from walkways or entrances that people might be frequenting would be a good idea to help cut down on how the presence of the insects around there. And then if you find a ground nest, you can put dry sand in it, preferably to do it after dark. I would also be covered and not go without any kind of protection there just in case. But waiting until there's not a lot of activity of insects coming and going from the colony would be the best idea in that situation. So thanks for your time. That's my last slide. I think now it's just time for questions.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone, so much. Does anybody have any questions? that they would either like to put in the chat that we can read, or that you would like to unmute yourself and ask. I was thinking about a time when my lawnmower got close to that yellow jacket nest in my yard that I didn't know was there, and it chased me into the house. It was very aggressive, and I was very surprised by that.
Yeah, they are known to be aggressive. We had a similar situation with a nest on our patio that was right by where the entrance to our house was. So we had to get rid of that one because they weren't happy to have us around.
Yeah. Paula?
My
Yeah.
understanding is that yellow jackets will put, if they sting you, they put a pheromone on you, and so then the rest of the hive may track you, and that's why they swarm. You know, those are the most, I think, most dangerous stinging insects we have around here. So yes, if you meet up with them, run. Get in the
Wow.
house.
Okay, that's good to know. Actually, my question is to Nancy about the buckets of doom. So you mentioned like a quarter of a dunk will work for like 30 days. Do you need to replenish the water, change the water? Is it a matter of just adding water and a quarter dunk like every 30? Like what's the technique for keeping those going for the season?
I think what I read on the website, then I will be sending that link to Rachel to send out with the recording or any kind of follow-up from this. The woman who named it Buckets of Doom, she didn't say anything about changing the water. And if you think about it, a swamp doesn't really get changed either, but it will continue to attract mosquitoes. So logically, I'm going to go with just the dunk itself because it will slowly dissolve and become less effective. So I think just the dunk over the summer.
I was curious about that too, of why you have to wait 3 days to put the dunk in if you can't just put it in right away.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, but trying to kill the larva, I think, and maybe it doesn't kill the eggs, but it kills the larva. So you're waiting to see some kind of, you know, effectiveness of your trap, I guess. That's kind of the way I think of it. You want to see that there's actually been something that's trying to, you know, trying to be born, I guess, or emerge.
That makes
And
sense.
also because that's the stage at which they maybe breathe in the water, drink the water, whatever they do when they're underwater, and they go through several stages of growth. So, you know, and you've got a few days to do it. So that's my guess, and maybe just having the BT in there is a deterrent to the adult mosquito too. I would have to actually look into that a little bit more. But good question.
I wanted to ask about you. Somebody mentioned that they were going to be making these with the camps.
Sure, I can mention that. What we're doing tomorrow, Jessica and Nancy and myself, we are paying a visit to 330 Park Ave, and a group of campers are going to be making buckets of doom. And it's a neat camp project because what they'll be doing is they'll be decorating the buckets and you know, constructing them, and then they'll be placing them around the property. The whole point, it's kind of like a science project. It's kind of neat because the idea is the kids are then going to monitor them. So everybody on this program, stay tuned because we'll make sure that the results get reported out. But the idea is for the kids to be able to try this out and see the bugs. And Nancy has volunteered to bring some of the larvae, the wrigglers, along. Hopefully you have some, Nancy. And you know, it's a good opportunity for the kids to hopefully bring this back home and share it with their families. So it'll be a fun project for all of us.
Thank you. That's wonderful. What a great collaborative project for the community. Any other questions? All right, well, if anyone thinks of anything, you can always follow up, send me an email and I can get it out to the right people. We'll be following up with resources and we'll make sure that this is on our YouTube channel. So do look for that program and share it with everyone you know. Great information. I thank all of you for being here. We really appreciate the work that you do for the community to keep us safe, and just everything was so great. So we really appreciate your taking the time.